So, what did this production run do for you? How has your training affected the actual process? Was it easier the last time? Easier than the second run?
Yes.
Because you knew exactly what was expected. What about the quality of the product? Everybody lift up your final product. You were focused on your individual products. What were the methods that different people used? Did you have more than one person build?
Yes.
So you created an actual production line. So again, we had assembly line methods and we had individual earring methods, where the individual people were each taking an earring. Is one method better than another?
It depends upon the number of units you manufacture.
Okay, it depends on the number of units you manufacture. You actually could do some time studies and figure out what's the best method, right? But the other issue is that one method isn't necessarily better than the other, but if we look at the times, it might be that one method takes a different amount of time than another. And if you're looking at it that way, and you talk to each other, you can make the same improvements across the whole organization that's going to reduce that variation in the time and improve it for the whole organization. So this communication across groups can end up helping the whole organization. And we didn't take it that far, and we're not going to do a production run number 4 and 5, even though you guys are having so much fun, right? We're going to end it here. But you could go into, and actually we do have another class, methods engineering, and we go through all of these different detailed processes. But communication is the key here. And the key is one method isn't necessarily better than the other, but if you standardize on one method, then you will be able to repeat it better. You don't want several different things going on in the organization. Did the last groups appear more empowered than the previous ones? Did you guys feel more empowered in the last run? Why?
Yes, because of the training.
Training, okay? So not just because I said you were empowered, but we showed you what needed to be done and how it needed to be done. And that helped you figure out this is exactly what the customer wants. Okay, so in summary then, the voice of the customer has to first of all be translated correctly. Not just verbiage, but a good prototype is usually needed to make sure that we are giving the customer what they want. Then there must be communication within the organization. Even if everyone has the same objectives, which all of you wanted to accomplish the same thing, you can interpret those objectives differently, and thus you ended up not satisfying the customer in that first production run. So simply verbalizing customer requirements is not necessarily an effective method to produce what the customer wants. Effective, remember we'll talk about the difference between effective and efficient in a few minutes here, but effective refers to doing the correct task to accomplish the job to meet the customer need. The voice of the customer then could be translated correctly, which is what we did in our second production run. We had a prototype, we knew what they wanted, but the employees have to end up being empowered to carry out those requirements, or else the customer may still not get satisfied. A lot of this can have to do with support functions, or what we call the internal customers. And in this case, material procurement was the issue. And sometimes they do have that dramatic impact on satisfying our external customer expectations, but quite often we overlook this, as we did in this case. So quality problems that we find during production or after a service has been completed end up being very time consuming. The eyeballs falling off, we kept having to go back and rework. Having the lower cost materials doesn't necessarily mean an increase in profit if the material is not effective in producing that product. And this is a concept that Dr. Deming hit over and over. And those of you that have taken supply chain Global Supply Chain Management with Professor Mappa. This is something that he teaches you. The whole supply chain is very important. So what we want to do is empower our employees, and sometimes that's as simple as allowing them some freedoms, such as communication with others in the groups, or training, simple training. But we also have to have the trust of our employees, right? It used to be that we did not trust employees, so we would say, no, just do as I say. I will tell you what to do. Employees, however, not just upper management, have to have a concern for the company, and then they become trustworthy. In Japan, this happened because they have lifelong employment. They don't want to see their company go under. Now, that's been changing a lot, but traditionally in the 1980s, 1990s, that's what was going on. Empowering employees sometimes can be accomplished through simple techniques such as training, as you guys pointed out, and it can go a long ways towards improving our processes and our efficiency.